What's up, guys? So a new Ronaldinho is here, and I want to have a look at this pack because Ronaldinho is one of my favorite players, and I bought the first Ronaldinho they ever released probably 2 or 3 years ago now. So I want to know if it's finally worth the upgrade. So he is a whole player, and interestingly enough, he actually has like increased shoulder length or shoulder width or something. So people are saying that he's got wider shoulders and he's better able to hold on to the ball now. So we're gonna have a look and discuss the card and see if that's actually going to be a big impact. But we'll go straight into the build. This is the build I would go for. We put a shooting booster on. Now, this is for an 88 proficiency manager. The eFootball database website still hasn't updated to add 89 proficiency, but for this card, it won't change any of his stats because he has no stat at 84 on this build. But it looks like a very juicy card. He's got 95 on every dribbling stat, 90 low pass, which is very important, 90 finishing, of course, 94 curl. He's going to be very good at those finesse shots and outside curlers. And then he's got the 90 kick and power. So the biggest thing here is that he's got the 90 kick and power and finishing. And then 80 physical contact as well. So that will help with those wide shoulders. In terms of those shoulders, though, he is a whole player. And I think this Ronaldinho, it's supposed to be kind of very fast and how he runs with the ball at speed because of the whole player. So I think that holding people off would suit more of a creative playmaker kind of play style, where he doesn't have to be moving as much. So as a whole player, like he wants to be kind of keep going and not stay too still, whereas I'd want him to be a bit more of a playmaker. So I think that low pass isn't actually that important at 90. Like I've got Maradona whole player, and I don't think his low pass is too important. I changed it from like 80 to 90 in this new update, and I haven't actually noticed too much of an upgrade. So I think the whole player isn't a major deal for him, but the stats definitely do look very good. If we compare it to the Ronaldinho that came out a few months back at the start of eFootball 25, this is what a Ronaldinho back then would look like, and they're very similar cards. The only difference is you're paying for the 90 low pass. So I think if you have this old Ronaldinho, I wouldn't be too interested in him. This one's also a prolific winger, so I think at prolific winger, that 83 low pass compared to the 90 on the new one, you're not really going to miss that 90 low pass too much. So I'd say if you have this old Ronaldinho, you definitely just hold on to it and don't upgrade. So if we look at his skills, he does have a showtime skill of momentum dribbling. I definitely do think that will suit a whole player, especially in the middle, just because there might be some times where there's a little gap and you have to be very fast to take advantage of it. So that momentum dribbling will help him get into that space. For the skills I'd recommend, I would go for cut behind and turn, first time shot, acrobatic finishing, fighting spirit. By the way, for fighting spirit, it just kind of helps you when defenders are near you. There's like a little bit of a penalty if a defender's kind of up beside you when you shoot. So fighting spirit either entirely removes it or lowers that negative effect. I'm not sure which it is, but it definitely is noticeable. Especially if it's a player that you always want to use, it's a pretty good skill just to have on a player, just because you're going to be they're going to be a little bit more reliable. And then for that fifth slot, it's a bit of a conundrum because you would like long range shooting on him just for that edge of the box shot. And then Marseille turning sombrero just because it is Ronaldinho, you want to make him as skillful as possible. Like sombrero is not effective in game really, but it is Ronaldinho. He'll make it effective. I do think sombrero would be better at left wing, because there's a certain animation you can get where you flick it over the opponent's head very nice. So probably wouldn't go for sombrero in terms of effectiveness, definitely for fun. You might be able to get rid of first time shot if you're playing him on left wing and then go for the Marseille turn. It might be better for cutting in, but definitely a very good card. And I've not upgraded my Ronaldinho. I'm probably gonna try this Ronaldinho out on stream later. Maybe someone will give me access to their account, but don't be surprised if I do end up getting them further down the week. Okay, so the next two players are Roberto Carlos and Cafu, and actually both of these really fit the tactic I'm playing right now. Roberto Carlos is a cross specialist, so I don't know if we have a cross specialist Roberto Carlos yet. This one can't play DMF, some of them can. But actually he is a left mid, so you will be able to train him in center mid for sure. I don't know if you can train him DMF as well. Okay, no, if you look at the Nielsen here, he's a left mid. You can actually train him DMF. So it looks like you can train this new Roberto Carlos at DMF. Not that he's like amazing in DMF, but if you were to play him on the right side DMF here, you can set up a knock-on shot with Roberto Carlos. Like, trust me, the keeper does not want to be in that goal. He will bang them in. But yeah, cross specialist Roberto Carlos. So what cross specialist does is it basically just means the player, if you play him at left mid or left wing, they'll hug the touchline. So he's going to be really far out wide. So when I go to Cafu, who is a right mid, I'm going to recommend low lofted pass because you can switch the ball to Roberto Carlos. very well. So if we look at Roberto Carlos's build, this is what I've come up with. Now the booster is a bit of a conundrum just because he's got 12 points in the passing, so it does seem obvious to take that off, but then you miss out on the +3. If you went down like this and you had an 89 proficiency manager, that would get you to 87 on that, and then the crossing would give you a +2, and then if you put another passing booster on, yeah, you'd get the +3. So you could do that. So if we had an 89 proficiency manager, that lofted pass would be 90, and then it means you have 3 points left over to put elsewhere. So you'd probably go into defending like this, and then maybe you'd just reduce the speed a little bit to get 80 on the defensive stats. But I do think this Roberto Carlos should be focused more for attacking play, and regardless, his physical stats are so good that even if you use him with this build, he'll be able to defend very well. Like particularly in midfield, the speed is a lot more important than the defensive stats, just because you need to cover a lot of ground. But definitely a decent card, but you wouldn't be better than the previous ones. We had a Roberto Carlos, I don't know exactly which one it is. It might be this one or this one, that had all 90 in the physical stats. So this one, unfortunately, doesn't have all 90s. Now, I don't think the jumping, or I don't think the physical contact's too important, regardless if you play him left back or left mid. I do think the jumping is kind of important if you're playing him left back. It seems like eFootball Hub is struggling to load, so I don't think I can show you the old cards. But anyway, if you have a previous Roberto Carlos, that is like a double booster, kind of a modern card, I definitely don't think you need to upgrade. And then we'll go on to his skills. So for his skills, I would probably go for interception, and then cut behind and turn. Then Marseille turn, particularly if you're going to play him left mid, I find it's very good for players to cross with, because you can always fake the cross and go into a cut behind and turn or a Marseille turn, whichever you think's more appropriate. I would also go for low lofted pass on Roberto Carlos, just because he will be able to switch the ball very well if you're playing a 3-5-2, and then soul control to set up that knock-on shot. If you don't really care about low lofted pass or maybe one of those other skills, you could go for a track back or a fighting spirit. The track back might be good just because he's got very good speed again, so you want them to kind of run around more like a headless chicken, because he will be pretty headless, but he will be fast enough to make an impact. But look, definitely not like a revolutionary card. It's kind of more of the same for Roberto Carlos. But Cafu is a bit interesting and a bit new. So he is a box-to-box, and if we look at my tactic that I'm using at the moment, I will be making a video on this tactic. I think it's very, very effective. You can actually get away with a box-to-box at the wing position. I actually have Mateus trained at left mid, and anytime I use him there, he's really good on left mid position. So I wouldn't worry about Cafu being a box-to-box and you thinking it might be an issue. And then if you're going to play him right back, I don't think it's a major issue either if you're going to put defensive instruction on him, just because like people already do play someone like Cannavaro at right back, who won't have a full-back playstyle. So if you put defensive instruction on him, like it will keep him in position very well. Maybe if you don't put defensive instruction on him, it might be a bit of an issue, but even then, I don't think it really will be. But definitely Cafu looks pretty decent to me. And of course, because he's a DMF, like Roberto Carlos, you'll be able to train him, right mid, like Roberto Carlos is a left mid, you'll be able to train him at DMF. But if we go into the Cafu builds, this is what I came up with. Very well rounded, very good defensive stats. It actually kind of looks like my Mateus build a little bit, maybe just a little bit less balance and more dribbling. But if you are going to play him right mid, if you play him at right back, I think this build works very well. You maybe just want to increase the dribbling a little bit to get 90s on the defensive stats for your right back builds, particularly with defensive instruction. But if you're going to play him right mid, this type of build will work very effective, because whenever I stream with this tactic, first question I get is, and maybe some of you were thinking it there a minute ago when you seen the tactic, why have I got Thuram at right mid? I mean, like, look at this build. Still very defensive, definitely like a fullback build. I think I just increased the curl to 70 to get a little bit better crosses, a little bit more whip on them sometimes. But the tactic works like he's essentially a fullback, but he's able to bomb up and down the pitch as well. Like, definitely someone who is more of a workhorse. So Cafu will arguably be better on it, because it's just going to be a little bit better on the ball, and his crosses should be better too. And then the dribbling stat itself is very high. So if we can actually put a booster on and we can get that to 90, so we'd probably go for ball carrying maybe. Actually, if you do ball carrying, you want the 90 kicking power. You're not really going to shoot with them too much, so maybe you can get that 90 kicking power down to 95. Sorry, the speed down to 95. And then take one off dexterity. Then you still have all the 90s on the defensive stats, so yeah, that might be a little bit better actually. And then maybe go just a little bit extra into passing. But yeah, Cafu looks pretty good to me. Now, if we look at his skills, He doesn't have a Showtime skill. Oh yeah, of course. Roberto Carlos has edge crossing. Forgot to mention that. But we think we all know how edge crossing works by now. But for Cafu's skills, he starts off with a decent bunch, to be fair. But I would probably put track back on him again, make him more of that workhorse, and then you kind of choose between blocker and cut behind. I'd probably personally I'd be going for cut behind because I don't think you need blocker on players that aren't centre backs really. I think you can manually block more often, and I prefer having a cut behind in turn. But I'd say most people would prefer blocker. I'd go for low lofted pass, like I said earlier in Roberto Carlos. He will be open to switch the ball to Roberto Carlos, so that would be effective. Get the ball to him a little bit quicker. Then I'd go for true passing because he will want to play in the winger if he's playing right back, or the striker if he's playing right mid. And then one touch pass just to help a little bit in the build up and maybe for the 1-2s too. But definitely a decent pack. Now we'll be trying to review Ronaldinho later on stream after work. So if you're interested to see how he actually performs in game, make sure to tune in later. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Bye.